Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is not a character flaw. It is not proof that you are lazy, undisciplined, or broken. Procrastination is a protection strategy, and once you see what it is protecting you from, the behavior stops feeling mysterious and starts feeling predictable. Here is the hard truth. You do not procrastinate because you do not care. You procrastinate because you care, and your nervous system treats the task like a threat. Not a physical threat, a psychological one. A threat to your identity, your self-respect, your competence, your future, your image, your sense of control. So your brain does what brains do around threat. It moves away. It reaches for relief. It postpones. It delays. It negotiates with tomorrow. And the part that keeps people stuck is that this avoidance works short-term. It lowers pressure fast. It gives you immediate relief. And your brain learns one clean association. Avoidance equals safety. That is the real reason procrastination repeats. In this episode, you're going to see the mechanism underneath it. Why willpower keeps failing, why motivation is the wrong lever, and how to build a simple internal system that makes action feel safe enough to start. Because when procrastination becomes understandable, it becomes solvable. Let's start with the most important reframe. People think procrastination is a failure to act. It is not. Procrastination is an action. It is an action your nervous system takes to regulate discomfort. If you want to change procrastination, you don't start by yelling at yourself to work harder. You start by asking one precise question. What emotion am I trying not to feel right now? Most procrastination is emotional avoidance wearing a productivity costume. The task is not the real problem. The feeling attached to the task is the problem. That feeling can be fear of failing, fear of being seen, fear of not meeting your own standards, fear of starting and discovering you are not who you thought you were, fear of choosing and closing off other options, fear of finishing and being judged, fear of success changing your life, fear of responsibility expanding. The mind is extremely creative at disguising these fears as rational reasons. You'll tell yourself you need more information. You'll tell yourself you're not in the mood. You'll tell yourself you work better under pressure. You'll tell yourself you'll do it when you feel ready. But readiness is often a lie your nervous system tells to delay exposure. So the real reason you procrastinate is this. Your brain is protecting you from a predicted emotional cost. That's it. Now, to make that practical, we need to talk about prediction. Your brain does not react to reality. It reacts to what it predicts reality will feel like. If your brain predicts that starting will feel painful, humiliating, overwhelming, or exposing, it will create resistance before you even touch the work. You can see this in the simplest moment. You sit down, you open your laptop, and suddenly you feel a vague heaviness. You feel restless. You feel a desire to check something. You feel your mind pull away. That is not laziness. That is a threat response. Your system is saying, if we start, we might confront something we cannot control. So it offers you relief in the form of distraction. And distraction is not random either. The distractions you choose are the fastest relief available to your brain. Social media gives quick novelty and quick reward. Cleaning gives the sensation of control and completion. Research gives the illusion of progress without the risk of performance. Organizing gives you the feeling of productivity without exposure. These are not moral failures. They are regulation choices. So, if you want to stop procrastinating, you need to stop treating it like a sin and start treating it like a signal. A signal that the task contains a psychological threat. Now, Let's name the 4 most common threats that sit underneath procrastination, because one of these is almost always the driver, and when you identify yours, you stop fighting yourself in the dark. The first threat is identity threat. This is when the task feels like a referendum on who you are. If you start and struggle, it feels like proof you are not smart enough. If you start and do mediocre work, it feels like proof you are not talented. If you start and fail, it feels like proof you are not the person you claim to be. This is why high-potential people procrastinate the hardest, because they attached their identity to being capable, and starting creates the risk of disconfirming that identity. So they delay. They keep the fantasy intact. In your mind, you are still the person who could do it brilliantly. The only problem is that fantasy does not build a life. The second threat is emotional exposure. This is when the task forces you to sit with uncomfortable emotions you have been avoiding. Writing forces you to face uncertainty. Studying forces you to face incompetence temporarily. Applying for something forces you to face rejection risk. Making a decision forces you to face loss of other options. Finishing forces you to face evaluation. So, you avoid. The third threat is loss of control. This one is sneaky. If you start, you enter a process that will have unpredictability. You might discover problems. You might need help. You might need to revise. You might have to change your plan. You might not know how long it takes. And control-oriented nervous systems hate open loops. So they delay until they can imagine a perfect path. The fourth threat is internal pressure, often driven by perfectionism. People misunderstand perfectionism. Perfectionism is not high standards. Perfectionism is fear disguised as standards. It says, if I cannot do it perfectly, I will not do it at all. And that protects you from the shame of producing something imperfect. It also guarantees you never produce anything at scale. Now here's the deeper truth that ties all 4 together. Procrastination is a way to avoid shame. Even when you don't consciously feel shame, procrastination is designed to prevent it. Shame is the emotion that says, if I fail, I am not safe in my own eyes. Shame is not just embarrassment. It is identity pain. It is why people can do hard things in other areas, but freeze in the one area that matters most to them. The more important the goal is, the more shame potential it contains, because failure would mean more. So, the mind protects. It delays. It finds comfort. Now, if this is the mechanism, why does willpower fail? Because willpower tries to force action against a threat response. That is like trying to sprint while a part of your body is pulling the emergency brake. You can do it for a moment, then you burn out. Motivation fails for the same reason. Motivation is an emotion. Emotions are not reliable on demand. So the path is not to wait for motivation. The path is to change what your nervous system expects from starting. Starting must become emotionally safe. Not pleasant, safe. That means we have to change the job of the first 10 minutes. Most people make the first 10 minutes about performance. They sit down and expect quality. They expect clarity. They expect flow. That expectation creates pressure. Pressure creates threat. Threat creates avoidance. So the first 10 minutes need a different job. The job of the first 10 minutes is not to produce. It is to reduce threat. It is to prove to your brain that starting is survivable, that the emotional cost is smaller than predicted, that imperfection is allowed, that confusion is allowed, that being a beginner is allowed. that you can start without committing to finishing. Because procrastination is often fear of the whole staircase. Your brain sees the entire staircase and panics. You need to show it the first step only. Now, there is a concept that makes this immediately easier. You are not procrastinating the task. You are procrastinating the feeling of being in the task. The solution is to make being in the task feel smaller. So, how do you do that? You lower the psychological stakes. You turn the start into an experiment, not a verdict. You turn the first draft into a container, not a performance. You turn the first study session into contact with the material, not mastery. You turn the first outreach into a message you can refine later, not a final representation of your worth. When you reduce stakes, you reduce threat. When you reduce threat, you reduce procrastination. This is why simple tactics that feel too easy can outperform complex systems. Because the core is not organization. It is threat reduction. Now, let's talk about the procrastination lie that keeps intelligent people stuck. The lie is, I need to feel ready. Readiness is a feeling your nervous system withholds when it is trying to protect you. If you wait for readiness, you are handing control to the part of you that fears exposure. So, instead of readiness, you need a different requirement. You need willingness. Willingness means, I am willing to feel a little discomfort. I am willing to be imperfect. I am willing to be a beginner. I am willing to do a small piece without needing it to mean anything about me. That is the identity shift. Procrastination ends when action stops being a statement about your worth. The moment you decouple output from identity, you get your life back. Because you can write badly and still be a valuable person. You can study slowly and still be capable. You can ship a rough draft and still be intelligent. You can be learning and still be legitimate. But if your identity is fused to being excellent, starting becomes dangerous. The protect strategy becomes procrastination. Now, I want to show you how this plays out in a way you can catch in real time. Watch what your mind says right before you procrastinate. It will usually say something that sounds reasonable. I should check one thing first. I need a better plan. I should wait until I have more time. I should respond to messages first. I should clean this up. I should research more. Notice how these are all control moves. They keep you in safety. They delay exposure. They keep you from the moment where you could discover you are uncertain or imperfect. So when you hear that voice, don't argue with it. Don't shame it. Just translate it. That voice is saying, starting feels risky. Then you respond with structure, not with self-hatred. Structure means you define a start that is too small to threaten you. You define a start that you can do even with low energy. You define a start that does not require confidence. Confidence is a reward, not a prerequisite. And here is the key. You treat completion as optional and starting as non-negotiable. Procrastination often disappears when you remove the trap of forcing yourself to finish. Finishing feels like evaluation. Starting feels like entry. Entry can be safe if you make it safe. Now, let's address the other side, the part where you procrastinate even when you know what to do. This is where attention comes in. Modern procrastination is not just fear. It is also attention addiction. Your brain has been trained to expect fast rewards. Tasks that matter usually pay slowly. They pay in delayed meaning, delayed progress, delayed pride. Your phone pays immediately. So your brain chooses the immediate reward, not because you are weak, but because it is trained. And training can be reversed. But again, not by willpower alone. You need an environment that makes the right behavior easier. That means removing the instant reward options during the start window. It means giving your brain a predictable ritual that signals, this is focus time, not entertainment time. It means making the first 10 minutes frictionless, not heroic. Because procrastination thrives on friction. If starting requires 10 steps, you will delay. If starting requires 1 step, you will begin. Now, I want to go one level deeper because this is where procrastination becomes almost philosophical. Many people procrastinate because starting forces them to choose a path, and choosing a path forces them to kill other versions of their life. This is why people delay committing to a business, a career change, a creative project, a degree, a relationship decision. The task is not the task. The task is accepting a reality, and acceptance feels like loss. So the mind stays in possibility. Possibility feels safe because nothing can fail if nothing is real. But possibility has a hidden cost. It keeps your life imaginary. The antidote is to choose small realities. Small realities are less scary than big realities. You don't need to choose your entire future today. You need to choose the next 15 minutes, the next page, the next paragraph, the next problem, the next email draft. When you build small realities, the future stops being a cliff and becomes a staircase. And the nervous system can handle a staircase. Now, let's talk about why procrastination often spikes when you are close to finishing. This is the part that confuses people because they say, I did most of it, why can't I complete it? Finishing creates evaluation. Once it is finished, it can be judged. It can be rejected. It can be seen. It can fail publicly. So the mind delays the final step to avoid the emotional exposure of being evaluated. This is why people leave applications half done, projects 90% done, drafts sitting for months. The protection is, if it is not finished, it cannot be judged. The cost is, your life stays incomplete. So the way out is the same. Lower stakes. Treat completion as a version, not a verdict. Make the first submission a test, not your identity. Make feedback a tool, not a sentence. The more you can tolerate being seen imperfectly, the less procrastination you will have. That is the core. Procrastination is fear of being seen in progress. The secure response is to allow yourself to be a person in progress. Now, here is a clean internal script that changes how you behave in the moment. And it is simple enough to remember. I am not avoiding work. I am avoiding a feeling. Then you name the feeling. Then you choose a start that proves the feeling is survivable. That is threat reduction. And when you do it consistently, your brain relearns. Starting does not kill me. Imperfection does not kill me. Uncertainty does not kill me. Being a beginner does not kill me. Once your brain learns that, procrastination stops being necessary. Now, I want to be honest about something. There is a form of procrastination that is actually grief. Some people procrastinate because they are tired of living under internal pressure. They are tired of never feeling enough. They are tired of turning life into performance. So they rebel through delay. They say, I'm not doing it. But underneath it is not rebellion, it is exhaustion. The fix for that version is not more pressure. It is returning to meaning. Why does the work matter? What is the smallest version of it that still matters? What would it look like to do it without proving anything? When you connect to meaning without pressure, action becomes possible again. Pressure creates resistance. Meaning creates movement. Now, I'm going to close this with one brutal clarity. If procrastination is self-protection, then the question is, what is the self you are protecting? Are you protecting the self that wants to stay comfortable, or are you protecting the self that wants to become real? Because there is a comfort self that will keep you safe and small, and there is a real self that will accept discomfort and build a life. The shift is choosing the real self in small moments. Not one dramatic transformation. Small moments where you start, even when you don't feel ready. Small moments where you accept imperfection. Small moments where you let the work be messy. Small moments where you stop negotiating with tomorrow. And the way you do that is by making the first 10 minutes about safety, not performance. Make starting tiny. Make starting predictable. Make starting non-negotiable. Then let confidence come later as a reward. Because confidence is built, not found. And procrastination fades when your nervous system believes that starting is safe. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.